year was 1976. I wish I was in Sherbrooke now. Oh, sorry, I'm going to stop. That's all bad. But the year is right. It was 1976. I was involved with Cycle Canada, which, as a young 20-year-old lad, that was 6 weeks of cycling from St. John's, Newfoundland to Montreal to celebrate the Olympics. And there was another group at the same time coming from the West Coast. Bicycle tours are not new to the area, but they get you into a community. And as I was saying beforehand, now I don't have the knees, the eyesight to see the cracks in the road. The railroad tracks aren't there anymore, but it's a little more dangerous than it used to be. Sharing some time and revisiting some old friends of mine a little while ago. One of them is just off to Machu Picchu. I said, oh, that's nice. And he said, later I'm going overseas. Oh, okay. Going to do something over there called the Camino de Santiago, which is a pilgrimage from all over Europe. People end up on the northwest coast of Spain. And generally it's considered to be an 800-kilometer trip, 5 weeks. And he's thrilled to do it and looks forward to it. And I said, wow, sounds interesting. Then I saw a film with everybody's favorite president, Martin Sheen. It was called The Way. And that talks about a father and his experiences on the Camino with his son. Again, a little more interesting. And I thought, why don't we do that here? We have lots of hiking trails. We have lots of other things going on. But the Alps Cove is nice. The Keji Adjunct is nice on the other side. But it doesn't work. You don't connect them. You don't get a sense of place and time. I know I'm in a place of geography here, so I'll just ask you to bear with me here. What is this? No, it's a map of Nova Scotia. Edward's past life experience shared with me that being married to a fine arts graduate might give you some insight into what shapes can mean and be. And some people think of Nova Scotia from around the world as an island or as a wharf or this or as that. But my little touch with the marketing community has made me realize if you don't have a unique selling point, you're just another Annapolis Valley this or Nova Scotia that, and it's very hard to stand out. Talking to Michael Hayes, who's written many guide hiking trail books, 9th, 10th, 11th editions, he said it is possible now to go from Yarmouth all the way to Meat Cove if you have to. 75% complete, could be done on trails, backwoods roads, other interesting spots, but we want to get people into the villages and communities to meet people with. So 25% of that would work if we could find these pearls of communities that want to take on that interest. Quickly, there are groups out there now who are doing some hosting in fundraising events or activities. In Europe, they use the hostel system for the Camino. They end up, Camino travelers there will spend €30 to €35 a day on their travels. It might be 15 to stay in a hostel and get a breakfast and be on the way in the morning. Whether that interferes with our regulations here for licensing, but boiling water to make coffee and give someone a boiled egg, I don't know if that constitutes a kitchen or not. You know? But anyway, as I said to my sons many years ago, if you can't get in the front door, then come around to the back door. Try that in all your approaches. The idea being that don't get stuck on the little things, but the success and idea of having a northern route, as Edward did with his people coming along Bay of Fundy perhaps, going up towards New Brunswick and then back into Cape Breton, yes, but also if we could get some communities who wanted to be hosts and welcome people, which would attract them to their artists and their communities. Imagine, if you will, in Europe, there are 250,000 people a year who do the Camino. No, I'm not going to say that's going to happen here in Maritimes, but imagine 1,000 people a week through Lawrencetown or other communities that size. Would that make a difference to the artists and their wares and their exposure? Who would come back again, perhaps, to look at this, be aware of a school? In a nutshell, yes. The other side of the coin is, I'm going to quickly take another minute or two here, relate a story from Out Ears, Malcolm Gladwell's book, where he talks about a community from southern Italy who were masons for marble, who came to the States and did very well, brought their families over, did well in the 1800s, 1900s. After that time, a young priest showed up and said, okay, keep going. Here, plant some seeds, get some gardens going, get a community group, have a festival, much like what happens here. And then a young doctor happened a couple of years later to come by, doing a presentation at a university, in a communication with somebody over a beer, found out that in that community, very little people had problems under 65 years of age with heart conditions. And this is not to talk about the Mediterranean diet, because they were now eating North American doughy pizzas done with lard, not olive oil. They were doing all the things that most of us do, and the Welsh communities next door and the German communities on the other side were also doing. So what was different? This community in the States, it turned out, had, of 2,000 people, had generated 22 service communities within that 2,000 population in their village. So when you came home from work, there was a bakery, there was a blouse factory, there was someone to shoot the breeze with on the way home and complain about your boss or not, or if you were having a hard time, they'd give you a hand. In other words, the strength of community is the real meat of the tale here. Yes, the low-hanging fruit is that the artists and artisans get exposure, and for bicycling people and other tourists, the things you remember are the slower things. It's the skinny dip. It's the lobster boil. It's when you get to see each other and meet each other, not to be the wheel dog or the sled or the swing dog in the dog sled. You know, look at the backside of somebody else and not visit at all. So getting off the track is possible, and walking the lobster is something we're going to be looking into and seeing if we can encourage it, because as I said, when the Yarmouth Ferry does come back, and I understand it will be, there are 100 million people within one day's drive of Portland. And you don't have to make them all be walkers or hikers, because they're already out there. The people are doing that in their own way now to entertain themselves, and we have potential. And it'll benefit us, and the communities can then decide for that extra money they've made as Lions groups or Kiwanis groups or Knights of Columbus groups, what would we like to do to enhance our community? Because the biggest question that came from earlier was, how do you get people involved? What about change? People don't like change. Well, the classic facilitator's answer for the culture of change, which I taught for a little while, was people don't like change. They dislike being changed. So you get them involved as their groups, and then the people with the money who've hosted the hostels say, what do I want to see happen in my community now? Do I want all the kids to have a tablet in the classroom? Do I want to teach fly fishing in high school instead of square dancing or volleyball in a gym? You know, so you give the people the power to spend that money they've made hosting the walking people, and that enhances their community the way that they want to, because they bought into it themselves. Thanks.